In the summer of 2018, an old school magazine company wrote to me inquiring if I would review a synthesizer. When I asked if I could be 100% honest, they said, quote, "Focus on the positive." And that got me thinking, focus on the positive? What's that supposed to mean? Old school magazines, oh how we love them. But back then there was heavy gatekeeping. Magazines had an entire team dedicated to putting together a monthly issue, from multiple article writers to editors, marketing teams to advertising teams. When asked to focus on the positive, it got me thinking, just how honest were these old magazines in a time where transparency wasn't a given and there were walls? When I was a kid, I loved reading through these magazines. Electronic Musician, Keyboard Mag, Recording, Mix Mag. A quick browsing of Wikipedia's list of music magazines results in a list of hundreds, most all of which the physical versions no longer exist, and outside of Sound on Sound, the ones that do exist are more and less online ClickFunnels. Old school magazines were the original fastest way to get gas. Page after page of wacky advertisements and reviews of stuff we really wanted but could never obtain. I went to a half dozen magazine stands in Los Angeles looking to find one music magazine, and they're just not there. That time has passed. These days, without gatekeepers, reviewers can be as cringe or as honest or downright scathing as the creator wants. There's no team, there's no editor-in-chief to say, focus on the positive. I racked my brain trying to remember a time I read a non-positive review in an old school mag, and I just couldn't. So I bought every issue of Electronic Musician magazine from 2002 and read every review to find something that wasn't focusing on the positive. Here's what happened. But before we get into all that, let's reminisce about the tech of over 2 decades ago and how far we've come. In 2001, many of the DAWs as we know them today were still in their early stages, and people didn't trust digital audio like they do today. Look at this Zoom ad. PC headaches not included. No crashes, no software conflicts, no peripherals or drivers. Digital recording consoles were still very prevalent, and burning a CD of your songs to listen to them in your car was the way. iPods came out in 2001, but this was really pre-aux jack in the car. The Tascam MX2424, this probably rings a bell, something even I used at a point in time, and many of my older viewers will fondly remember. 24 tracks was top-notch tech back then. Back in 2001, guess what also came out? Ableton Live version 1.0. I'm surprised so much of Ableton has retained its look until today. Clips were a thing back then, very innovative at the time, and you could use Rewire in Ableton. What a trip. We have it so good in today's music world. Plugins and DAWs are cheap, some are even free. The race to the bottom started a long time ago. I have the 2002 Editor's Choice issue. Here's some of the best tech according to them in 2002. 3 cheers for our 33 favorite new products of the past year. Okay, let's check them out. Oh, it's an ad. Okay then. Pro Tools version 5.1 sporting brand new Beat Detective. The Mackie MDR24, wow, this looks old. Waves version 3.0, their gold bundle for $1,300, which is now $200. Most of the stuff I don't remember at all, but some standouts from 2002, the Alesis A6 Andromeda, only $3,500 back then. And Propellerhead's Reason version 1.0, incredible. The biggest limitation of old school magazines was the very format they arrived in. Let's take, for example, this review of the Novation Supernova from the December issue, 2002. Lots of descriptive words and adjectives about the synth, but no sounds. There were no links to websites with sound examples, no extra CD attached, just some words. As an adult now, in the age of detailed YouTube reviews, this whole reading about how something sounds feels bizarre. But those were the times. In 2002, I know for sure getting my hands on a synth like this in a store near me was impossible. So I guess I just have to take the article writer's words for it and place my order. In this way, this whole experience makes me feel like old school magazines were just a gigantic ad. Sometimes I could flip 3-4 pages just to get back to an actual article. In the January 2002 issue of this magazine with 188 pages, 79 were full-page ads. That's almost 50% of the magazine, and I'm not even counting half-page or almost 3/4-page ads. It's all ads. That said, some ads were pretty cool. 2000s edgy attitude ads. Look at this. Save trees. How original. And this one. It's easy to make it look different, but difficult to make it sound better. And let's be honest, this was probably a subtle jab at the KRK studio monitors and their color scheme at the time. Now you can sound as good live as you do in the shower. Hilarious. These days, this all seems super cringe, but how else were you supposed to get info about new stuff you wanted? Real quick, check out these centerfolds. Nice. So back to the original question at hand. Were old school magazines only focusing on the positive, only showing products in good light and telling me what I wanted to hear? Obviously, as I wasn't there, I can't say for certain, but I read through every full review and review in the quick picks section, and there was never a product that was given a score lower than a 2.5, which is objectively neutral, not bad. Most every review has a cumulative score of 4 or above, and not once was there heavy criticism of a product or its failing, or given a 2.0 to any category really outside of documentation for software. Except one review that was actually given a 1.5, but hilariously, the major complaint about this was, there's too many ads. How ironic. So yeah, my memory served me right. While only a small sample size, I mean a year's worth of magazine reviews from one magazine, I never really saw anything but positive everything, neutral, very, very little. Nothing critical outside of small suggestions, whether that had to do with the hand-in-hand relationship of old school magazines giving out reviews for the very same gear companies that also paid for full-page advertising side by side those articles, is for you to decide. I loved old school magazines though. In a time before gear videos on the internet, magazines were cool as heck. It definitely got me to read more as a kid, at the very least. But I'm sure it also made some of you love gear to a probably unhealthy level. I don't know if the term gear acquisition syndrome existed at the time, but when your entertainment is reading about things you'll most likely never be able to afford instead of making music, it probably wasn't helping. That said, not everything was an advertisement. Old school magazines had some great articles, and I enjoyed learning things, even if it was much less efficient than YouTube is nowadays. I look forward to getting these in the mail each month, though at the time, I felt I still cared very little about gear. I just performed, I made music. No piece would make or break my setup. It was just cool to look at the pictures and daydream. Thanks for watching, guys. I hope you liked the retrospective on old school magazines. Remember to playlist my tracks on Spotify, like, subscribe, follow me on Instagram and Twitter. I'm out.